Okay, so here's the Doctor Who part of the Doctor Who and the Master Painting. As you saw in the first part of the video, I put down the flat colors already. I had the sketch layer on top of my Doctor Who skin colors, and I'm just putting down the shading at about 50% opacity with the paintbrush, and then smudging it out with the smudge tool and a splatter. For those of you who don't know what I'm using, it's Photoshop, Adobe Photoshop CS3. My computer is a Mac, but that doesn't really matter. You can get it for a Mac or PC. You can purchase it, or you can find it, I suppose. But, you know, far be it from me to suggest that you not spend $2,000 on graphics software. But anywho, so it's a really awesome program. Highly recommend it. I will say, to do this, you know, it takes some level of skill. You have to be able to duplicate what you see, but the proper tools do go a long way, and Photoshop is definitely the way to go. Or Corel, whatever, Painter is good, you know, but Photoshop is a good one, and Illustrator is good too. So anywho, whatever. I'm just going through on the different layers that I have. Whenever I do a picture like this, I generally use about 5 to 10 different layers, keeping all the different colors that are touching one another on separate layers. You know, you can keep, if you've got his hair and his shirt and they don't touch, you can put those on the same layer just to keep the size down. But always make sure that you try to keep the touching things separate so that you don't go over one color into another. Some tricks about Photoshop. I would recommend either finding a good brush that works for you or making a custom brush in the brushes palette. It's always good if you've got a tablet, which is another thing that I highly recommend if you don't want your hand to turn into a calcified claw. Trying to do something like this with a mouse, it's painful to say the least, and difficult and torturous and whatever. But whenever you're using a brush, if you set that brush to pen sensitivity, you know, with your tablet, it actually helps out putting down the color and doing that, because the harder you press, the harder, you know, the color goes down, or the harder it smudges. It just, you know, basically gets the full functionality out of any tablet that you have. I use a Wacom Bamboo. It is the little cheapy $100, no bells and whistles Wacom. The Intuos is great. Offers like twice the sensitivity. I think mine has like 512 and the Intuos has like 1,024 or some such thing. But you know, if you only got $100, get a Bamboo. It's better than a mouse, and it's pretty groovy. So right now I'm just screwing off the eyes. Eyes are tricky, you know, when you're trying to get the color right for the whites of the eyes, because like I've said before, again, they're not really white. It's good to make them like a creamy grayish color. A lot of times they're, honestly, if you were to color pick from the original picture, you would be surprised at how dark the eyes are. But I never really do that because I like more vibrant, bright colors and whatever. It's kind of cheating. Not that I care about the, you know, quote unquote rules, but you won't be well served by color picking a photograph. But if you insist on it, I would recommend when you're using the color picker, some people just use it straight out of the box and just go with the, you know, 3x3 average or the 1-point selection. But you can always, you know, change the picking area so that you can get a bigger average of what you're color picking. If you're insisting on color picking skin colors, hair colors, clothing colors, the way to go is at least a 5x5 average, because in a photograph, any one pixel could get wonky. Your eye is giving you a composite of all those pixels together, and that's where you get your color from. So a little bit of that. I scrapped most of my sketch layer, but for the lips, I did pull in the lines there, just to not reinvent the wheel, but otherwise I just chunked them. I'm doing an ear, and like I said before, cannot stand ears. I don't like them, they suck, but whatever. It came out pretty decently. So a couple of Photoshop tips if that's what you're using, so that you don't have to keep going to the menus for the brush size and for the opacity. If you hit the left and right brackets, you know, in between the P and the backslash, those will increase or decrease the size of your brush. If you hit any of the numbers on your number pad, like if you hit 5, it'll make your opacity 50%. If you hit 9, it'll make it 90%. If you hit 2.5, it'll make it 25%. So that you don't have to keep going up to the slider bar. stuff like that. If you're having trouble finding the smudge tool, if you look at my menu and it's the little finger that's down, it's an option of the blur tool. So you might have the blur tool selected in your toolbar. So you just hold down on the little, and it looks like a water droplet. If you mouse on it, click on it, hold it down, it'll give you the option to switch the tools. Any of the tools that has a little black tick in the bottom right hand corner, I think it has some more options. So now I'm doing the hair. I pulled in an extra hair layer. Oh, I hated his hair so bad. It sucks because he's got these like bangy hair, like gelled things happening. So I don't think I did it justice in the least, but I've been working on this picture for a really long time and I was just like, screw it, whatever. But since I was going in a bunch of different directions, I made another hair layer. I wasn't just all working on the same layer, because then I would have just been blurring what I had already put down and basically like shooting myself in the foot. So, don't restrict yourself to just 1 or 2 layers on anything. Like, have as many as you need, as many as your computer can take. Mine was shitty kittens having to record this and work with a large Photoshop file at the same time. So, utilize your scratch disk settings. Make sure those are set properly so that your computer isn't just like chugging along, because a lot of times when you're working with the smudge tool or certain brushes, your computer will drag ass and that really sucks. So always be mindful of your settings and your memory and your disk space available, because that helps out a lot. So I'm just getting in those final suit details. I was lazy and just jacked the same texture that I used on the master's coat and just put it over Dr. Who's did a clipping mask. So now I'm doing the background. I found this cloud picture because I didn't want to paint them myself, and I put a layer mask over it and just blurred out the edges and just duplicated the same layer over and over again, flipped it around and set the mode to screen. And there you go, you have clouds that you didn't even have to draw yourself. So now I'm doing the phone booth behind them. I'm just using the gradient tool that is a option of the paint filler tool to just do like the shading really quick. I was so over this picture by the time that I got to the background that I was just like cheat city, but I didn't want to crap out at the last minute. So half of it's just painted, and some of it is using the pen tool and the lasso tool, the polygonal lasso tool to make the shape. So like the window, I threw a layer effect of an outer glow on that, so it just kind of looks kind of illuminated, and then I just duplicated it over and over again and flip-flopped it. Threw some text on it with an outer glow to finish it up, and that was pretty much it. So thank you so much for watching this.